After absolutely battering West Ham at Stamford Bridge last time out, Chelsea go again this weekend in a game that could have major ramifications on both the top and bottom ends of the Premier League table versus Nottingham Forest. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome to the lead-in. Let's set the scene here. It's Chelsea versus Forest, 7th in the Premier League versus 17th. After getting another 3 points and Manchester United losing 4-0 to Palace, we sit just 2 points below 6th place Newcastle United, within reach of the Europa League. A win here would put us into that coveted spot if the Magpies lose to Brighton, so we absolutely need to keep our good form up. We'll have to beat Nottingham Forest in order to do that, a team that has arguably even more incentive to win this game than we do. They are only just above the relegation zone, and any points they gain are massive for them in the last few matches. Their form isn't great, with only 1 win and 1 draw in their last 5, but considering some of the dubious refereeing that has been present in those matches, I don't think that paints the full picture in truth. They are coming off of the back of that 1 win, a 3-1 victory against bottom place Sheffield United, and will be looking to make it 2-2 versus us. So let's take a brief look at the Nottingham Forest team and see what they could be bringing to the table. Firstly, let's talk absentees. The Tricky Trees have almost no injury concerns, with all of Murillo, Willy Bolly, Taiwo Awoniyi and Nicolas Dominguez returning from injury last time out versus the Blades. That means that Nico Williams, who is currently recovering from a thigh injury, may well be the only unavailable player for this fixture for them. I'll be putting Nuno Espirito Santo's side into a pretty standard 4-2-3-1 formation for this fixture, with the team likely not having many changes from the team that beat Sheffield United. First up in goal though is going to be their January signing Matt Sells. The Belgian has played every game since he arrived, and despite only having 1 clean sheet so far, I don't think he'll be replaced anytime soon. The defence is going to be unchanged from the back 4 that started last time out, with 1 former blue in the side. Firstly in at right back will be the World Cup winner Gonzalo Montiel. The centre-back partnership will be both of those previously injured men, with Murillo and Willy Bolly lining up in the left and right centre-back roles respectively. Finally, over on the left will be the former Chelsea right-back, Nigeria's own Ola Aina. Moving into the midfield, we'll start with the deeper roles. After getting a goal last time out and generally being a staple of this Forest side, I'd expect Ryan Yates to start on the right, alongside his Brazilian partner Danilo Oliveira. For the more advanced midfielders, I think this is where their danger men really lie. On the right will be ex-United winger Anthony Elanga. In the central role will of course be Morgan Gibbs-White, and finally, over on the left will be another former blue, the local boy from Wandsworth, Callum Hudson-Odoi. That leaves 1 man up top, and I'm going to be rotating this position. I don't think Chris Wood will retain his place, and instead I would expect Taiwo Awoniyi to come back in for a start. As I said, just a brief overview of what I expect their team to look like. Other than that striker tweak, I doubt there will be any changes to the side in truth. Now let's quickly take a look at how Chelsea could line up. We are still struggling with injury despite a few players returning recently, and whether those returnees will get substantial minutes is up for debate. Okay, quick editor's note here. As always, I recorded this episode well in advance of the injury update / team news being released, so a lot of the injured players have now made a return to full team training. I do think it's slightly too early for all of them to return to the starting 11 however, so I'll be sticking to my original lineup anyway. I think that we'll continue to use this 3-2-5 system that starts as a 4-2-3-1. As ever, I'll be showing what I expect from Poch, then suggest changes that I personally would like to see. Starting with the goalkeeper, I'm going to be putting in Georgia Petrovic as always. 0 goals conceded in 225 minutes of football now and 2 clean sheets in a row. Hopefully we can keep another here and continue to boost his confidence. For the back 4, this is going to be pretty standard from what we've been seeing recently, so starting at right back it's going to once again be Trevor Chalobah. The centre back pairing will once again be veteran Thiago Silva alongside Frenchman Benoit Badiashile. And finally, over on the left will be my current favourite centre mid, Marc Cucurella. Moving into the midfield, we'll start with the holding roles. Again, I don't expect change here, so the reliable duo of captain Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo, who got a goal and an assist respectively, start once more in the middle. Ahead of them in the attacking midfield roles, there could be slight tweaks here, but with the form Noni Madueke is in right now, there's no dropping him from the side. Chelsea's Players Player of the Year and Men's Player of the Year, Cole Palmer, who has also been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Season and Young Player of the Season, as well as this month's Player of the Month, is of course a shoo-in for the central role, looking to create danger as ever. Now the left side could be contentious for some, but I'm going to be sticking with Misha Mudryk, who hasn't really put a foot wrong. The same could be said for Nicholas Jackson, who will lead the line for us. A brace for him in the previous game took him to 13 goals in the league for the Senegalese native, besting Didier Drogba's first season, which is a good sign of things to come from the young striker. This is what I'm expecting, but what would I personally change? Let's start with the backline. I don't think I would change anything personally, but if Levi Colwill is available, I'd like to see him get some minutes in the left centre-back role. He was the only returning player that didn't make the field in the last game, and I'd hope he'd be eased back into the fold in this one. Likewise, Malagusto has returned and could possibly come in for Chalabar, but I'm not sure if he suits this new system and whether or not Poch wants to use him at right back because of that. Moving into midfield, again, I'm liking what I am seeing from this lineup, and if it isn't broke, I don't want to fix it. However, I would suggest that we give another routine substitute appearance for Italian Cesare Casadei if we need some fresh legs at the latter stages of the game. The only other change I could possibly envision is Christopher Nkunku replacing Mudryk on the left, but I don't think the Frenchman is ready for a start, so we'll have to hold out hope that he can get a decent chunk of game time off of the bench once again. Apart from that, I think this is the strongest team we can field with all our injuries. With some returning players, I don't expect there to be any youth involvement, unless we are counting Alfie Gilchrist, who will likely make an appearance late on for his passion session. So those are my lineups, and I'd like to hear from you guys too, so for today's question of the day, answer me this. In light of Cole Palmer's recent double award win, what has been your favourite Palmer moment so far this season, and why? Let me know in the comments down below, with QOTD at the start as always, and I'll heart my favourite answers. Now let's analyse the previous performances from both of these clubs and discuss what we can do to beat Forest as comfortably as we did West Ham in this fixture. This analysis section will be brief, as I've spoken about our system on numerous occasions over the last few weeks. However, if you are interested in that type of deep analysis, you can watch the breakdown of our West Ham match that I just uploaded. The link will be in the description for mobile users, and there'll be a little card in the top right hand corner for people on desktop. Long story short, the way that our team functions now is in this 4-2-3-1, but it will always change into a 3-2-5 or a 3-2-2-3 when we are in possession. The way that we do that is obviously by inverting Cucurella into the midfield. Centre backs will shift across like so, and what this does, and the reason why this is so important, is that it allows us to push Conor Gallagher high and have that extra man in the attack. Obviously Palmer will be moving more central into this little inside half space, and Connor will operate on the opposite side. And what this also allows us to do is, of course, push our wingers nice and wide and occupy these wide areas as well. And as I've spoken about in the past, this stretches the opposition teams and likes to kind of add more space in between the defenders here as the fullbacks go out to mark our wingers that are really wide. Now that worked really well against West Ham, and we'll likely try and do a similar thing here. And the reason why I think this works so well for us, and the reason why this is so effective, is that, as I said before, it allows us to commit this extra attacking body forward without sacrificing our defensive stability if we get the ball taken off of us and the opposition tried to counter-attack on the transition. Obviously, we still have the 5 players back here. Cucurella, as we have seen, will always go drop into this left back role when required, but for the most part he stays here and will be doing a lot of counter pressing and winning the ball in the middle. This formation and the way that it functions is very balanced in that regard, and it's part of the reason why I think we have been so successful with it is the fact that we do have a very good 5 up top in a way, and then a 5 at the back as well, and it is very balanced in both attack and in defence. And I do want to talk about the opposition a little, that being Nottingham Forest. In their last game they did beat Sheffield United, but to be honest it was kind of against the run of play. The Blades largely controlled the game and had a lot of opportunities to score. Like I discussed in my West Ham preview about Liverpool, they weren't clinical though. And in that preview I said that if we would have the same opportunities, we would be more clinical than Liverpool were, and then we went on to batter them 5-0. I expect a similar thing to happen here, with Forest trying to sit back nice and deep, but then trying to break quickly on us with counter-attacks, especially down the wings where they have a lot of exciting talent. But for the most part, I think they'll largely be unable to do this and be unable to get past the high line and the high pressure of our team. We saw this against West Ham. They really struggled to play out from the back and had to opt to play long balls over the top, which we inevitably were actually just winning, and they would just recycle the ball back to us. If we are to succeed in this game, I think we'll have to do things that are similar to what we did well in the previous game. That being, the rotations have to be smart. I think we still need to see Obviously, Mudryk and Gallagher interchanging, Palmer and Madueke interchanging, seeing Palmer dropping deep into these types of positions or dropping into Caicedo's position sometimes. Chalobah, of course, will drop into the midfield. We need to see that constant rotation that we saw against West Ham because it causes that confusion and that indecision between the opposition players. And it just makes us really, really hard to get a grip of when the players are constantly moving around. The players that are supposed to be marking the individuals just can't keep up with the other players. Not only that, but we need to win our individual battles, especially in the midfield. We were seeing this a lot in the West Ham game where Cucurella and Caicedo were just winning their individual battles. Obviously, Caicedo against Souček was a very interesting battle that Caicedo won, in my opinion. We'll have to keep winning these all over the pitch, not just in the middle, but especially in the middle. I think that's the most important place for us to win. But out on the wings too, I think it's going to be a very important place for us to win our battles. These challenges between Badiashile and Alanga and Chalobah and Callum Hudson-Odoi on this left hand side is going to be really, really important, and shutting them down I think is going to be a massive part of how we will be successful in this game. We'll have to just work harder than Forest and then overwhelm them with that pressure and that hard work. As I said again, we did this really, really well against West Ham and they could not get to grips with us at all. We were just really, really on the front foot and they never really settled. And we need to do the same thing against Forest because Forest are a team that are going to give us a lot of possession here, and we need to punish them whilst we have that possession like we did against West Ham. Our passing once again needs to be patient and we need to play it in these little triangles that we were doing in the West Ham game. Keep playing it until opportunities arise for us to be more direct, more penetrative and more precise. The quick, direct, forward-thinking passing that we were doing in the West Ham game was what really caught them out, and it's those moments of playing forward quickly from a slow build-up that kind of caught West Ham out in a way, especially when Palmer was getting on the ball and he was able to play these really direct passes into the attacking areas. I think that's a very good avenue for us to catch the opposition out, especially against a team that are going to sit back and are going to have a lot of bodies. These types of passes are going to be very, very important. Not only that, but us getting on the half turn when we are playing out from the back and then playing forward is going to be super, super important. We can't keep recycling the ball and getting the ball and playing it backwards or sideways like we see often from our team. One of the things we did really, really well against West Ham, and I want to see us do again, is just controlling the tempo and the rhythm of the passing. We dictated when we wanted to be fast, when we wanted to be slow, and we kind of just never gave them the opportunity to keep up with us. We didn't have one set tempo, it was a lot of mixing it up. Sometimes we would pass very slowly and methodically, and other times we would just play it really, really quickly directly from the back to the front. Mixing up short and long passing is a very good avenue for us again. We saw it in the West Ham game when we saw Trevor Chalobah produce a bit of magic from a long pass, but also we saw those short passing moves in and around the box too. And I think either of these can be a way for us to unlock Forest, as they are going to set up in a very similar way to the Hammers. And likewise, if they are going to be setting up in this narrow 4-2-3-1 or the 4-4-2 or 4-1-4-1 like West Ham did, we can exploit the space on the wings like we did against West Ham with Mudryk and Madueke. Now, we saw this a lot in the West Ham game, that Madueke was just completely free and able to take this 1v1 versus his fullback. Obviously, in this game, he's going to be up against Ola Aina, if my predictions are correct, who is a very, very good one-on-one defender. But he is, of course, on his wrong side. Now, Madueke, obviously being a left-footed player, is more inclined to go inside, but he is not this type of player. He can go either way, and a lot of the time he does like going on the outside, trying to get to the byline and then cutting the ball across for Jackson or Gallagher, who arrives late, or Mudryk, who arrives late into the box. And I think this kind of suits us, especially against Aina. Obviously, being a right-footed player on the left-hand side, his inkling is to tackle on this side and not on this side. So I think Madueke will find a lot of success up against him. And if he can keep the form that he has been doing in recent games, I think he'll more than be capable of going around the outside on Aina's side and providing danger from there. We saw Sheffield United open up Forest time after time, but didn't take any of their chances. The worst team in the league was able to easily get through this Forest backline. We are a far better team, and I'd expect us to score multiple goals here. I do want to mention where I think their danger lies. As I kind of briefly mentioned in the section earlier, I think Callum Hudson-Odoi, especially on this left-hand side, is going to be their danger man. He has been in very, very good form all season for Nottingham Forest, and we know what he likes to do, and we should be able to defend against it. He's always going to try and get to these positions and cut inside onto his right foot, bending for the far corner with his shots. We've seen this as he was playing at Chelsea. He would always do this. He's a very tricky customer, very good on the ball. So what we'll have to do is double up on him and maybe even triple up on him. I think that when the ball goes out to him on this wide area, if he's really, really wide, we need Chalobah and Caicedo to be over here trying to make this a 2v1. Obviously, if Ola Aina is joining him in this attack, I think Madueke really needs to be defensive in this game, especially. He has been working on his defensive qualities in recent games and has been very good at that, but we need to always outnumber them in this scenario and not allow Callum or Aina on that side if he's doing overlaps to get a grip of the ball and to be able to create those opportunities with his direct dribbling. Another danger man that I want to talk about is their centre forward, Taiwo Awoniyi. He provides something that we haven't been very good against all season, and that's that pure pace, pure power type of striker who's always going to cause issues just being a nuisance. We saw this with Antonio, who was drifting out to the left hand side in the West Ham game. He was trying to do this and wasn't very successful, but Taiwo Awoniyi, in my opinion anyway, is a much more technical player than Antonio, and a much more technical player than a lot of people give him credit for, I would say. Taiwo is younger, hungrier, and caused us real issues last time. Obviously, he's just more than just a big striker. He's, as I said, a very technical player, and he got the assist for Elanga in that previous fixture. We struggle from things like set plays, and Forest are a very physical team, especially with Awoniyi, so they could cause us issues from set plays. We didn't really defend set plays particularly well against West Ham. We just got a bit lucky that they hit the crossbar so many times. We were a bit shambolic from those situations, even allowing players like Jared Bowen to get free headers in the box. So we'll have to avoid those situations. We'll have to avoid giving away any silly fouls out in these areas, or even out in the wide areas here. No silly fouls, that would be great. Obviously, we don't want to be giving away any penalties either, because going one goal down in this game could be the worst thing for us, honestly, as Forest will just rest on their laurels and defend really nice and deep after they are one goal up. I think we need to start very fast and very early like we did against West Ham, and once we do have that early lead, Kyle kind of encourage them to draw themselves out a little bit as they go searching for a goal. Obviously, they need to better the result of the teams below them in order to avoid relegation, so they will have to step out at some point and try and score if we score first. And I don't think this game will be anything like the first game between the two clubs. I expect a resounding victory rather than a cagey close affair. I think this is going to be much more open than that game was. But I do still think that Forest are going to be reserved in some regards and try and stop us from scoring on them immediately and then find their opportunities on the counter. Whether they are able to do that is another story, and we'll just have to wait until the game in order to see whether they can do that. For a score prediction, I'm going to be predicting another Chelsea win. I think that Chelsea using this system is a completely different beast, and I'm going to predict another hammering. I'm going to go for a 4-1 victory because I do expect Forest to get at least one goal here. I think our goal scorers are going to be Palmer, obviously, Trevor Chalobah, and Jackson with another brace. For Forest, it would be poetic if Hudson-Odoi scored against us, so I'll be backing him to be their lone goal scorer. We'll have to wait until the game to see if any of my predictions are correct, and as always, I'll be live streaming after the game to give my first reactions. But if you can't wait until then, YouTube reckons you will enjoy one of these two videos on screen in the meantime. Thank you guys so much for watching as ever, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.